Hi, and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of June 21st, 2021. In terms of the stock market direction, I think Monday might be a down day, but only I give it about 55% chance. And things actually look good for the US, but globally, I think overall a down direction may be more likely. Then Tuesday and Wednesday look like up market days to me. Thursday, I think, of all of the days of this week has the greatest probability of going down, and market will likely turn back up on Friday. So overall, I think, and especially for the US, I think it might be an up day for the market. And by market, I mean like Dow Jones and NASDAQ. On Monday, I think we will see some positive news for domains related to like oil, gas, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, and other Neptunian areas, maybe like movie theaters, etc. And I think that the price of oil and again related products may go up. Let's see, on June 21st and 22nd for the US, as I mentioned, things actually look fairly good, and especially for IT, communication and transportation industries, so anything to do with like airlines or cars, especially electric cars, social media, things of that nature. Also retail sales and education. So we may hear about some new opportunities, increased earnings or funding, or improved growth and improved environment just for things to kind of move forward, or perhaps increased opportunities to get loans or increased investments in those areas. And if there are new products announced at this time, perhaps like a new car or a new phone or some other kind of service or product, chances are greater than usual at this time that this product is going to be popular, especially among younger people. For June 22nd through 23rd globally, I think there may be increased news about excessively wet weather, too much precipitation, and or perhaps about spread of something that again is related to Neptune, so spread of chemical, or perhaps a gas leak or oil spill, or some liquid or some oil or some pollution of say water with liquid or some chemical, basically causing some problems with again either pollution or perhaps causing travel delays, again wet weather, and maybe some flights are canceled, or perhaps there's like an oil spill, and so some ship is delayed delivering some goods or something like that. There may also be news about other sort of Neptunian domains, and the manifestations will likely be negative, so maybe like lies, deceptions, obviously hacking, spying, those kind of things, or some safety of travelers that either are traveling to faraway locations, perhaps internationally or across bodies of water. Maybe again people are caught in some storm or something like that, or flood. And there may also be increased focus on things like religious groups or activities, and again from unfortunately like some negative perspective. So maybe somebody's doing something illegal, or people again are caught, they went to some pilgrimage and there's bad weather and they got caught in the rain and whatever, they can't travel back or something like that. It's generally on 22nd, 23rd, there may be increased news about just like any liquid or gas or something flowing and not stopping. So if there's like a gas leak, for example, or something that's trickling through a dam or through a wall or whatever, seeping through, basically that unfortunately at that time it will be hard to detect it and difficult to stop. So whatever the stream of something that's flowing, let's say drugs across the border, or like I said, there's a breach in a dam or some chemical is seeping through, it will be hard to stop it at this particular time. For the US, 22nd, 23rd look actually fairly positive. The focus there may be on improving partnership relations and perhaps reaching some international agreements in some amicable way, and maybe mutually, that's because maybe partners will be able to see eye to eye with respect to their values about some product, or agreeing on basically on the mutually beneficial terms. And there may also be in the US positive news on the 22nd, 23rd of June about workforce and healthcare. So perhaps something like, again, improved conditions, increased availability, perhaps more jobs are available that are, good jobs, and or improved, healthcare situation, maybe availability, I don't know, of some help for people who are in need, or improved at least clarity of where things are heading. So again, there's like a better way for people to see how to perhaps obtain healthcare or how to obtain help. So things kind of looking better for those domains on 22nd, 23rd of June. And June 23rd might be one of the more important days of the week, if not the most important. And the influence there, a little bit of mixture. I think overall market will go up, but it actually does look better for the US and internationally. And definitely I think there may be some important announcements on the 23rd. And that's also the day where Mercury will finally turn direct after being retrograde for some time. And so there may be some decisions that perhaps were delayed up until now, or there's a delay in, say, flights or travel, or delayed in some communication, or unclarity of maybe there's a pending agreement, pending deal, but the details weren't quite finalized. 23rd, 24th is when we actually can see those things moving forward. Travel resumes, the agreement negotiations resume, the agreement is signed because finally things are clear, things like that. And generally 23rd and 24th may see increased news about communication transportation areas, including things like airlines, car manufacturers, social media, and there may also be increased focus on things that involve governmental regulation of various financial, policies, rates, taxes, insurance, investments, real estate, banks. So those kind of news may also, in parallel to, this focus on resuming of communication, transportation, but in parallel also 23rd and 24th, we'll see this increased sort of focus in the news on rates, currency value, real estate value, bank assets, etc. And there may be actually some concerns about the legality of some of the investments, or hidden money, hidden profits, somebody's not paying taxes perhaps, and that may require some increased governmental regulations to ensure that, again, the money, is not some, passing through some hidden means, and that the assets or savings are safe, and that, the real estate prices are not out of whack, so things like that. So there will be definitely some increased news and increased announcements on the 23rd, and probably on 24th as well. For the US, 23rd, 24th, yet again, look fairly positive. There may be increased news about improved earnings, but also general theme of banks, finance, rates, taxes, etc. will be strongly, I think, featured in the news. And there too may be some news about either, again, increased focus on taxes, rates, etc., but also governmental regulations of those areas, or some decisions that are made by the government that basically govern how things are ought to be. Let's see, on Thursday, I think there may be increased probability of just kind of swings in the stock market, regardless of the direction. So a little bit less stability on Thursday. And I think market may go down on Thursday. And Friday, I think things will rebound back to up. Now, in terms of the sort of glance ahead at the upcoming few weeks, as I mentioned in my previous several videos, that end of June through early July is going to be an important period, because we will have this intense square between Saturn and Uranus, being kind of further, stirred up by Mars, forming a kind of a T-square with those two other planets. And generally from between, I'd say, mid-June to mid-July, but especially very end of June through, I'd say, maybe 9th of July, there may be increased probability of various, either, accidents, disasters, things kind of exploding, fire, maybe excessively, hot weather, but also things that, again, perhaps weren't stored properly can explode. And that's because these are some of the manifestations that I've seen that had occurred previously under this transit, which I have a separate video about sort of the situations that I've observed that had occurred previously, and again, something like unfortunately, an airline accident, or specifically things, maybe there's a gas leak, an oil leak, and something explodes and results in a fire. So far, again, we're not quite in the worst time yet, but we did actually have already this past week some of the situations where one I've seen, unfortunately, there's this really young guy, motorbike daredevil, Alex Harville, had died when he was attempting to set some record of jumping 351 feet, in the world record jump. Unfortunately, he crashed, and he just had a wife that had 2 kids, and one baby was just a month old, so definitely a horrible situation. But definitely my point being, and I mentioned that before, so this is not the time for attempting doing risky things, and definitely try to stay away from risky sort of situations or dangerous areas, etc. So another thing that I've seen, and that's kind of definitely more of a typical manifestation of this, Mars, Saturn, Uranus kind of a T-square, is that I guess in Moscow they're experiencing really hot weather. And in addition to that, they did have this explosions, multiple explosions at the pyrotechnics warehouse. So things again exploded and there was a major fire. So that's exactly the type of manifestations you would expect with this, under this transit. And again, not just things that are, say, gas is leaking or there is some accident, but specifically with things blowing up suddenly. And nothing quite happened yet, but it is interesting to note that there was also news just on the 20th of June about an emergency shutdown at a nuclear reactor plant in Iran. Again, this may be nothing. Supposedly they're just doing some technical overhaul, whatever that means. But certainly I would pay attention to anything where, again, things are building up at the end of June, and anything that's starting to experience some problems, things unfortunately may just kind of build up, and the worst, I'd say, period will be from the 29th of June through the 9th of July. So any of those areas in dangerous activities, I would definitely stay clear, and avoid. In addition to these kind of potentially, accidents, disasters, etc., what might possibly occur in terms of the stock market is wild swings in terms of the value of various assets, and specifically because we have Uranus, this planet of revolution, electricity, and sudden jolts, being in Taurus, and Taurus specifically rules like finance, currencies, and banks, and so those are the type of areas where you might specifically experience crazy swings. So maybe currency value may go up and down, cryptocurrencies, again, banks, anything that's perceived to be a stable, kind of a slowly growing asset, suddenly maybe, especially again, end of June to early July, maybe going up and down like crazy. So obviously there's a opportunity to make a lot of money, but also to lose a lot of money at the same time. So that's definitely very a dangerous period, or risky period, I should say, for traders at that time. And because of the presence of Saturn squaring Uranus, I don't think that this period will last for a long time. I think things may kick in where government steps in and does impose some regulations and restrictions to basically block this kind of increased swing sort of activity, or prevent things from escalating. So I think there may be a big kind of a pushback as a result of, potentially this risky, volatile activity. Let's see. I looked at the also horoscope or natal chart of China, and actually for China also July 2nd through 11th look significant in the terms of the also being potentially difficult and tense time, and their focus may be on things like partnership agreements, collaboration with partners, and anything to do with like military weapons, arguments, conflict escalations, but also sports. So many competitions, achievements in sports. So there may be some records set, but also it may be through, again, this intensification of focus on competition and kind of not letting the other, person or the other partner win, and the focus may be more on this kind of more competitive, kind of aggressive sort of stance. So that this may not be the best time or not the opportune time, I guess, for peaceful negotiations, but rather, and peaceful negotiations, of course, can proceed, but this would require much more patience than usual. And some agreements may be broken, perhaps that were reached previously, or just generally there may be some breakdown in communications. Like I said, negotiations may be broken off, previous agreements may be broken off, partnership like disagreements, fighting even with partners, and other areas that may be affected in China. Again, July 2nd through the 11th might be related to things like cars, communication, transportation in general, so maybe some difficult conditions for, say, travel, or problems with car safety, or even perhaps some fires or something that makes it difficult or dangerous to travel. So that's for the upcoming few weeks. For the upcoming several months, just to give you kind of this glance ahead at the upcoming months, at the end of July, especially 27th through the 30th, actually, I think market may go up. Things kind of look a little bit more positive. There may still be increased volatility in the stock market, perhaps because, again, at this time things may be going up on the excitement, and some, limits may be exceeded because traders maybe, or investors may be really excited about something, and again, being super optimistic. At the same time, there may be increased news about things like international agreements, international travel, transportation, shipments, and there may also be increased news at the end of July on things like judges, lawsuits, legal status of something, etc. There may also be, unfortunately, disruptions for travel due to perhaps, like, again, some volcanic eruption or something along the lines of air pollution or something along those lines. Let's see, for US, August and December of this year may be significant in terms of increased news about financial policies, and I think it's also the time where there might be some reversals in the value of gold and silver, especially around August 9th and especially December 15th of 2021, and I think those might be tops, where August 9th being like this intermediate top, and I think overall gold and silver will go up in value through about 15th of December of this year. Then also this period of about August 24th of 2021 through late February 2022 for the US may see some increased either confusion or uncertainty, or even just some miscommunication related to military, and especially like Navy, and partnership or agreements with other countries, and there may be just, again, sort of confusion about where things are heading, or confusion, or sort of, again, just lack of clarity when it comes to making partnership agreements, or maybe focus on, again, Navy, bioweapons, sort of activities, again, that involve ships, oceans, etc. And there, unfortunately, may be some lack of clear communication that might potentially lead to an accident or something malfunctioning, and again, something is just in the wrong place in the wrong time, or there's too much fog, literally, or too much rain, and just one thing is not seeing each other properly, and that might lead to like a maritime accident, or there may be some other unseen threats, not because, again, of bad weather, but because they're like purposely masked, I guess, so something along the lines of hacking and spying, or again, there's like a bioweapon, something that you can't see, basically can't detect, and that's from late August through late February of next year for the US. In terms of another important period, I guess, upcoming in the few months will be end of August through early September, especially September 1st or 3rd, at which time there may be increased focus on, again, things like precipitation, wet weather, chemicals, gas prices, oil prices, which there may be some stressful news around that area, and either again news along the lines of like an oil spill or chemical spill, or concerns about the oil prices, and I think there may be a large market drop on the 3rd of September. In terms of the upcoming even years, even like kind of looking even further ahead, there will be definitely, I think, a really major kind of intensification in terms of floods and precipitation next sort of, I say, winter through spring, especially around the 4th of April of 2022. And at the same time, there may be increased focus on, again, areas related to like chemicals, again, perhaps floods, lead to soil pollution, and or there may be increased outbreaks of some diseases, which again, if it say happens in warmer areas somewhere in the world, things like cholera often, get triggered by basically soil and water contamination, so things of that nature. But definitely major floods, major events involving excessive precipitation sometime next winter through early spring, especially around 4th of April. And another difficult time perhaps in 2022 will be around August 1st. Also possible accidents, bad weather, things like that. For China, unfortunately, again, looking at China's chart, things look kind of worse for especially next July through August. Again, excessive precipitation is possible, significant flooding, things like that. For the US, the entire sort of year of 22-23 may see some significant changes because of one, Neptune entering its 4th house, which would be related to like things going underwater, meaning literally flooding, or real estate underwater, or some confusion, or basically lack of clarity about the stability of banks, real estate value, and things like that. And at the same time, US is going to be going through what's called a Pluto return, meaning that Pluto is going to be appearing in the same position where it was when US was first founded in 1776. And so that typically coincides with major structural changes. Structural changes mean like the governance, who's in power, how things are governed, constitution, things of that nature. So just really major changes involving, with Pluto being in the Capricorn, involving things that are at the top, meaning again, who is in charge, governments, but also large corporations, how things are structured. So some large corporations may be going through restructuring, etc. And Pluto is a pretty like a strong, powerful planet, where usually it kind of also relates to things like mining, for example. Things that are hidden, things that have been buried, maybe can come up at this time. So there may be increased probability of like scandals, or literally if there's some mining projects, something may be unearthed, perhaps some old burial with some interesting things in it, I don't know, some archaeological discovery. So all of those are possibilities, but definitely some time of important transformation 22 and 23 for the US. And beyond that, another really important year that I see in the horizon is 2025, where we will have multiple things occurring. One, we will have Neptune conjuncting Saturn, which will be probably a likely very strong kind of reversal point for oil. I think it will be a top overall. So between now and 2025, I think overall oil may be going up, but at that time things will be dramatically changing. And at the same time, Neptune, which again in my research I see is closely correlated with oil, is going to be entering areas, of course water also, Neptune. And so what we will probably see, again, really strong change in how oil perhaps is used, or how its related products are produced, and the value probably will be big changes in value, but also of any other products of like say water, chemicals, gas, movie theaters, any sort of medicines, etc. So there may be strong changes in, on the one hand, availability of these products, value of these products, and also how something is developed. So perhaps, with areas, things usually occur very fast, and typically in response to there being maybe like some somebody who's wounded, and therefore you need to quickly develop, a way to help them. So previously, under similar transits, we had like a development of things like anesthesia or improvement in surgical procedures, and that was in response to basically there being a lot of wounded during a war, and so therefore new ways of kind of dealing with that had to be invented. And another area, and so unfortunately, basically in 2025 there may be either another cycle of some pandemic. We had like Spanish flu, for example, in the past under the similar transit. So if there's indeed another wave of some pandemic, there may also be big improvements in development of very safe vaccines or any other treatments to respond and take care of that. And then also, unfortunately, Aries is a fire sign, which is not really compatible with Neptune being water, which of course things may lead to either water drying up, literally, scarcity of water, scarcity of clean water, or even fighting. Aries, rules by Mars, god of war, fighting over water, and definitely some changes in the value of things even related to water, like how things are transported through water, submarines, delivery of water, etc., etc. So that's through 2025. And speaking of water, Neptune, and oil, just to kind of finish specifically to comment on oil, I do have on my blog at lasunka.com some specific dates for this year where I try to kind of pinpoint a little bit more specifically the direction for oil. But just to give you a quick sort of glance for this year, let's see. I think, again, I already mentioned 21st, this Monday, that oil is going to go up, and August 8th through 10th, I think there may be increased oil-related news, and again, possible a reversal to down, like a brief drop in the oil prices, but especially then 31st of August through September 3rd, there may be a really big change, reversal in oil prices. I think it might be a down move, like a drop, and I think actually on September 28th or 30th, oil then may go back up, and especially peak around the 30th of August. Then there may be yet again another drop in oil prices, 25th through the 28th of October. And then finally, November 27th through 30th might be again another important period this year for oil prices, where I think there might also be a downtrend for oil at that time, perhaps due to excessive availability, maybe, or too much stuff basically stored. But I think overall, those are just a very like a detailed level predictions for this year. But I think overall, with Jupiter going through Pisces, starting from about May of 2021 into spring of next year, I think overall oil prices will actually go up. Let's see, when was it? Into early 2022. But I think overall, again, there will be oil trend up through about 2025, at which point not only will the oil price, I think, reverse on a large scale, but also there may be some serious changes even in how, again, oil is used, stored, applied, something, and of course not just oil, but also things like chemicals and any sort of petroleum derived products. So there will be some interesting changes on a global scale. So that's it for me for this week. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video, and will come back and check me out next week. Until then, have a great week, everyone. Bye.